Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well. My name's William. This is a Assetto Corsa Competizione, and today I'm going to be driving the McLaren 720S GT3 around Silverstone. As always in these videos, I will have a hot lap for you, followed by the setup, going over the setup as well with some tweaks and adjustments you might be able to make the car a little bit more suitable for your driving style. If you don't quite like the way I had it set up, there will be some good information in there for you to potentially change it to be a little bit more specific for you and a little bit easier for you to drive. Specifically also with this car, there will be some good stuff in there just because I went for drivability and safeness a little bit, as it was kind of difficult to tame. So it is not the most aggressive setup in the world, at least in my opinion. So there'll be some adjustments in there you can make if it is a little bit too safe for you, for sure. As always with these things, guys, I really just want to say thank you all so much for the support. And if you do like the video, give it a thumbs up. It helps me out a ton. I'll go ahead and shut up now. We'll get on into the hot lap, and then I'll be back to talk to you guys through the setup. Enjoy. Okay, that was a hot lap around Silverstone in the McLaren 720S GT3. You can see the time here is a 1:57.663. Go ahead and look at the timetable so you can see the sector times if you want to compare to them or something like that. Good through the first sector. This car feels on rails through the S's for me. Super easy through turn 1 as well, which is really nice. All the high-speed corners, this car is just insane. It is a little bit understeery in the slow speed corners. I'll kind of talk about if you want to kind of balance a little bit more towards the slow speed stuff and sacrifice the high speed stuff whenever we get into the setup. But you can see here also just slightly off of, this was an invalid lap, but nevertheless slightly off this middle sector time. There's definitely more time in the car for sure. And then just ever so slightly as well off my actual purple sector for the last sector, but more time in it for sure. Taking a look at the setup now. So for the tire pressures, I'm aiming for about 28 psi hot on the front, about 27.5 psi hot on the rear. Now whenever I say that, I mean like I want it to peak no higher than 28 psi, because you're going to go around this track, you're going to load up like your left front quite a bit, and if you're running around the majority of the track at 28 psi, the second you load it up, it's going to jump up to about 28.5 psi, and you're going to lose grip. So typically running the pressures a little under your target, and then just kind of pay attention to the corners where it really aggressively loads that tire, and make sure your tire pressures kind of stay within the range that you're looking for. So again, 28 psi for the front, 27.5 for the rear is what I was aiming for. So the other thing here on this page is this rear camber. So it's a pretty close spread, and it's a pretty high rear camber and a pretty close spread to the front. It's really for the high-speed corners, just maximizing all the grip I possibly could get, and making the car feel, like I said, it feels like it's on rails through all the high-speed corners around here. If you do want to get a little bit more of a balance between the high speeds and the lower, there's a lot of slow corners around here. You want to get a little bit more rotation out of the rear of the car, that kind of thing. You can try reducing this rear camber. You'd be amazed how big of a difference just 1 or 2 clicks will make. You know, just 2/10 of a degree really does make quite a big difference. Alternatively, you can try and just increase the spread between the camber front to rear. You might lose a little bit of like braking performance or something, but you can go for, once again, just like 1/10, 2/10 of a degree increase on the front of the car, and see if that improves the balance. Like I said, though, this is primarily set up for the high-speed corners. It does sacrifice the slow-speed stuff a little bit, and the car doesn't quite rotate. It just feels like it's a grip monster, basically. It doesn't quite rotate the way you might want it to in the slower speed corners, but you could try that to fix it if you are struggling with that or just want to change it. My electronics here, so traction control on 2, ABS on 1, traction control on 2. I just do that because this car does like to oversteer a lot for me, and I struggle with the throttle control. So using the traction control tools, you're going to need to adjust these anyways. If your conditions are pretty different or whatever, you should be using these tools to suit the track and the state it is in, so that you're getting the most out of the car. That's what they're there for anyways. My brake pad compounds front and rear is on 2. As far as the suspension stuff here goes, reduce the brake bias to 54.4. It's actually quite a bit lower than what I was liking on the car elsewhere, but I think that's just because this track, there's a huge emphasis on trail braking, and just lowering that even further back really does make it that much easier to trail brake. Also running a fairly high downforce setting, or very high downforce setting around here, so it makes sense to be using more of a rearward brake bias because of that. My anti-roll bars are quite stiff as well. You can see that, and a really stiff front wheel rate. Just trying to control the balance of the car and keep a nice stable aero platform. That's basically the reason for that. Very important to have a good amount of downforce around this track, and you could definitely feel it the second it comes off. So setting the car up to be nice, a nice stable platform as far as the aero stuff is concerned. Let's see, getting into the dampers here. There's not really much to talk about other than, yeah, these fast bump settings are quite they're not quite low. They're very low or non-existent. I think on the 720S, it just feels like the second you add any little bit of fast bump, if you're trying to control or like slow the way the car reacts over like a curb strike or something like that, once you start ramping up the fast bump even a small amount, you really do. It's aggressive. Like it goes, you know, 1 click to 2 click is a massive increase for some reason. So running it very, like I said, very low, just to make it to where you can actually attack these curbs the way I want to around the track. And then the other thing I was going to talk about is also, if you want to get a little bit more rotation in the middle slash exit of the slow speed corners, you can try increasing this front rebound a little bit, just keep the nose, keep a little bit more weight on the nose as you kind of transition off of the brake and back onto the throttle through corner exit. So you could just try and increase this. It doesn't take a massive swing, once again, to kind of change the balance of the car, but you could definitely go for that. Onto the aero side of things, this is typically where I would say to make an adjustment if you're wanting to change the way the car drives. It is largely what I'm talking about as far as the understeer from the car is largely a mechanical kind of grip thing, but you can definitely adjust it with some of these settings as well. You could try lowering the nose by 1. Lowering the nose is a much bigger aero change than increasing the rear ride height just by a click or two. And yeah, other than that, there's really not a lot to talk about on the aero page. I'm running the max wing. Front brake ducts closed up a little bit more to try and balance the heat in the tires front to rear, keep them pretty close to the same operating temperature, so you're getting the same amount of grip from the front and the rear of the car. But other than that, there's nothing really new. So if you do want to increase the rotation of the car, you could try increasing the rear ride height a little bit. Like I said, doesn't take a lot, 1-2 clicks. Or you could try decreasing the front ride height by, I would suggest doing it in increments of 1, in all honesty, because it is a bigger change. But lowering that front ride height, you're going to have to be mindful to make sure it still kind of clears the curbs and isn't going to buck you off if you try and really attack some of the places you kind of sneakily cut the track around here. So anyways, guys, that's the setup. I hope you like it. I hope if it is a little bit too safe for you, there's some good adjustments in here for you to make it a little bit more suitable for you, a little bit more aggressive if that's what you're looking for. As always, if you like this video, give it a like. It does help me out a ton, and I really do appreciate it. I appreciate all of y'all's support. It means a ton to me, and I hope that this setup works well for all of you guys. So thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye bye.